Welcome back everyone. This is the next session of Kanji Oboima show where we do kanjis from 61 to 70. So let's get on with it. So this is number 61. Yeah, okay. And this is how that kanji appears. Okay. Let's quickly have a look at the mnemonic. So here this is again referring to something that I had covered in the initial videos, most likely in the first or the second video. There is a concept called radicals, and I have not yet gone too deep into them, and I don't plan on doing so in this video either. But just to give you an idea, for this kanji, the radical happens to be this. Let me just write on top of it in yellow so you can see clearly what exactly I'm referring to. It's this. This is the radical, and this radical is supposed to be a contraction of this kanji. Okay, just like when we saw I think it was the kanji for katsu or active, and this is how we wrote that kanji, and we said that this is the reduced form of water. Similarly, this the kanji that we are able to see now, so this part in the left is the reduced form of this kanji, which stands for person or hito. Okay, please bear that in mind. Now we can proceed into what the meaning actually is. So imagine that a person is sleeping under a tree. Why tree? Because the second half means tree, right? I hope you guys remember that. So let's imagine this kanji to be representative of a person sleeping under a tree. So in that case, what do you imagine that person is doing? That person is resting. So the meaning of this kanji is rest or suspend. Okay. Now let's quickly move on to the on and kunyomi. This has a bunch of kunyomi, but they are all related. So let's have a look. The first is yasumu. Then you have yasumaru. Maru. Then you have yasumeru. And of course, yasumi. Okay, now one tip, just like I gave you in some of the previous kanjis, this one is supposed to be a noun, and these are all verbs. Okay, these are all verbs. Only that last one is a noun. Okay, now let's have a look at the onyomi. It's very simple. The onyomi is just Q. Okay, it's just Q. Now let's have a look at some words for this. So the first is the kunyomi, the noun kunyomi, and this yasumi means rest, recess, suspension, okay, vacation, holiday, or absence. So you can even refer to any leaves that you take, any paid leaves or any other leaves that you take, that can also be referred to as yasumi. Okay. Let's move on to the next word. I hope you're able to see that this is the entire kanji for the sun or the day, etc., etc. And I think you can understand that you are going to take the day meaning, or you're going to associate the day meaning with this kanji in this particular instance, and you're going to read it as kyujitsu, which means a holiday. or a day off. Okay, or a day off. I don't know why I hyphenated it. Okay, now let's have a look at the next word. That's not a very pretty kanji, so let me just redo. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, that came out much better. Now here the parenthetical means that it can be omitted. This can be omitted. Okay, so this is going to be read as teikyu, and if you must voice the last kanji which is omitted, usually you can read it as B and not jitsu. Okay, it is going to be teikyu. Now if you remember, the first kanji means fixed. I hope you can remember what this kanji is. You're talking about something being correct under the roof, so it means fix. Okay, so teikyu is how you will read it. Teikyu means regular holiday. Okay, or it is already fixed to be a holiday. That's what it means. Okay, let's have a look at one more word. Okay, this is kyushi, which means suspension, pause, rest, dormancy. Okay, those kinds of things. Stand still. Those kinds of things. Okay, I hope the meaning is pretty clear. You will be able to understand from the context whether you're excuse me, from the context whether you're talking about the kanji as rest or the kanji as suspension. Sometimes you can have both meanings coming together as well. So okay, let's go to the next kanji, kanji number 62. Very similar to this kanji in appearance at least. Okay, now let's try to memorize what this could be. So again, repeating, this happens to be person, and if you remember your kanjis, this means basis or foundation or origin, those kinds of things. So here you're talking about the origins or the basis of a person. The origins or the basis of a person happens to be their body, right, or their form. When you're talking about inanimate objects, the body of inanimate objects, you're usually referring to the form of those objects. So that is what you refer to here. Now let's have a look at the onen kunyomi. The kunyomi is fairly simple. It is karada. Okay, and the onyomi is tai or tei. Okay, tai or tei. Now let's have a look at the words. I hope you remember your kanjis. Okay, this is shintai. Again, this itself can also be read as karada. Okay, this is an alternate reading. You can read this entire kanji composite also as karada. That's what that means. Again, both kanjis mean body, so the overall meaning is also body. Okay, body and body means body, right? That kind of thing. Okay, now let's have a look at one more. Okay, oops, I apologize. So here you're specifically talking about the body of a person. So jintai, right? Which means human body. Human body. Okay? Now let's have a look at the next one. Okay, this is daitai. Daitai. Now, instead of thinking of this as a big body, think of it like this. Okay, let's say this is a person. Okay, let us think of this as a person. Now, this person, instead of thinking of them as big or small, think of the first kanji as representing only this part. You know, the way in which the person is going to look their biggest, and they will look their biggest when you're talking, when you take their outline, right? Instead of talking about a person's face or their arms or their legs, you're talking about the entire outline of the body. So this means outline. It's a bit of a convoluted way of conveying the meaning, I suppose, but you have to memorize it somehow. So it's outline. It can also mean generally, that is when you're not talking about physical things but more like ideas or concepts. So you say generally, this is how it works out, or roughly, or you could say on the whole, you know, on the whole, that kind of meaning. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. Okay, this is straightforward, I suppose. This is Karada no naka. Karada no naka, which is inside the body, quite simply. Now, if you're wondering why there is a no inside, you have to be studying some grammar on this side and reading how sentence structures work. So this is a more literal translation would be bodies inside. So usually this no works something like the apostrophe and then s. So the insides of something, basically. So it also shows possession, same as this apostrophe and s. So the inside of the body, that's how that means. Okay, that's how that comes across. So again, please do study Japanese grammar and other things on the side, otherwise this is going to become really difficult and you're going to get questions which you will otherwise not get. Okay, let's have a look at one more word. This will be read as shotai. Shotai, which means one's true shape. One's true shape, or consciousness. Consciousness. Okay. If any one of us is fascinated by philosophy, then this is a bit of a side, but you could look into it if you're interested. There was this person called Rene Descartes, and Rene Descartes famously said, I think, therefore I am. So this is basically a bit of a side, but then yeah, consciousness, that is to say, we exist because we have this idea of the concept of self. That is, we think of ourselves, we know that, I know that there is a thing, that there is this human being which I am, which is what is talking right now. So that kind of that thought process is what allows us to recognize ourselves, and that is what is called consciousness. So yep, which is why it is the true shape or the true self. It's your consciousness that defines you. Anyway, enough of a tangent on that. Let's have a look at the next kanji. Okay, kanji number 63, and this is how that looks. Now, before we get into the mnemonic, I hope you're able to see how we are essentially covering kanjis in a very particular kind of sequence, where we do kanjis that we have covered previously and then see their composites slowly, and then we are introduced to newer kanjis, and only then do we see kanjis where those kanjis become components. So for example, this we did the human body, and then we did the kanji for say, and only then we are coming across this kanji. So that is basically the advantage of the Kodansha Kanji Learners course. This particular book, the book that we are following, it introduces kanjis in this particular way, which makes them easy to remember. So again, this is a repetition of a point that I previously made, but yeah, that is the advantage of this, and which is why you will be able to race through all the kanjis in a fairly short period of time, rather than investing at a minimum of 2.5 years. So anyway, let's look at what this kanji means. So here, this is again a person, and this is say, right? Those are the two kanjis that we have. So imagine that there is a mouth giving a message to a person, and the person believes, believes, believes. My English spellings are awful. Anyway, so here the meaning is a bit how should I say, convoluted, not straightforward. The meaning is believe or trust, or it also means message and signal, which is why if you're able to remember that there is a mouth giving a message to a person, you'll be able to quickly understand at least one meaning, that is to say message, and the secondary meaning, or rather the meaning that secondary only in terms of the mnemonic, not in terms of the actual meaning that is associated with the kanji. But you can just further that logic to say that the person believes, and you'll be able to come across both the meanings of this word. Okay, so now let's quickly have a look at the onen kunyomi. So again, this is one of those kanjis which does not have a kunyomi, it only has an onyomi, and the onyomi is again shin. This is like the third or fourth shin that we have come across. So again, to stress, because we're still under the 100 kanji mark, maybe after the 100 kanji mark I will stop mentioning these little points. So try not to memorize the on and kunyomis just like that. Try and remember how each of these kanjis is read in the words that we do, and based on that you'll be able to memorize the on and kunyomi as a result, rather than directly trying to force yourself to memorize all of these things in one go. Okay, now let's have a look at some words. Okay, this will be read as shinyo, and this means trust, credit, or confidence. Okay, so you have belief, and then you have the kanji for use. So you use it to believe, or you trust. Okay, that's how that comes up. Now let's have a look at one more. This is one more shinshin. We have done one shinshin in the past, which meant mind and body. Here, because both of them will become, how should I say, a little bit confusing, you will instead add this dakten here, which is those two little lines which make shi into a ji, and you will remember this as shinjin, which then becomes belief, faith, or piety. So this has that kind of a bit of a religious connotation to it. So belief, faith, or piety, you will call it shinjin, which is your trust and your heart. So what you believe in your heart to be true, those kinds of things. Okay. Now let's have a look at one more. Okay. Now this is going to be, okay, new shin, which means joining the faith. So here again, this means enter, and you're talking about this as being belief. So you're joining the faith. That's what that means. Again, a bit of a religious connotation there. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oops, I missed the first stroke, I think. Yeah. Okay. So the first kind of means like un or not. So you're like, there is no trust. So which means it is distrust, or it means discredit. Okay. Now this is one word that you form when you look at this kanji. So this kanji is known as shin, and one word that you form, which is not like a kanji composite but more like a kunyomi word for it, would be this. Okay. This has an alternate form, which I will write in the bracket so that it's easy. Okay, these are the two forms. So the first is going to be shinjiru, and the second one is going to be shinzuru. Okay, shinjiru or shinzuru, and this means believe. Again, believe. Okay, or believe in. You could almost say that this shinjiru kind of functions like the kunyomi itself. Kind of. So you can look at a dictionary and you'll be able to find these words coming up. So this is one good use of it. Okay. Moving on. We are done with this kanji, so we will move to the next kanji, which is kanji number 60. Oops, I forgot to change the pen color. Number 64. Okay, and number 64 is written like so. Okay, that's how that's written. Now let's have a look at how we can remember this. Okay, so this first part is of course a person or man, and let's say that this part, these two strokes, are his arm, and let's say this little thing, the last stroke, is a small object. a small object. So you can understand this as a man carrying a small object in his arms. Okay, so here the meaning, it could be a little bit tricky, but anyway, let's see. The meaning here is attach. So you could look at that object as being attached to him because he's holding it in his arms like that. Okay, so attach, to be attached to, okay, to be attached to, or hand over, okay. Not exactly a very straightforward kanji, but this is one kanji which you will use a lot if you have to use emails at work. So you will get used to this kanji very easily. It's not going to be too difficult at all. Okay, now let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. This has a bunch, but they're all pretty closely related, so it shouldn't be too difficult. So the first, tsukeru, I should rewrite that. Tsukeru. Then you have zukeru, very similar. Then you have tsuku. Then you have tsuke. Then you have tsuke. Tsuke. I apologize for my cat. I think he's hungry and he wants to be fed, and I hope one of my family members can feed him. Okay, where were we? Zuke, right? Okay, zuke, and then we have zuku, you have zuki. They're all very similar, so it shouldn't be too confusing. I'm just listing them out because it's there in the book. Zuki, zuki, and of course zuki. Okay, those are all the kunyomis that you have, but usually tsuku, tsukeru, or tsuki, and that's it. Tsuku, tsukeru, tsuki. Those are the three forms and the three variations that you will see. The onyomi is very simple, the one that you will come across most often, and it is hu. Let me write that again a bit properly. Yeah. Okay, that's the best I can manage. That's hu. Okay. Now let's quickly look at some words. Oops, I apologize. Yeah, right. So this is fugen, which is postscript. Postscript is that PS that we write at the end of letters or emails when we want to write something that we didn't in the main body of the email. It also means additional remarks. Okay. Now this is how we write the kunyomi. Tsuku, which means attach to, adhere to, be connected with, be connected with, etc. Okay, the other set of kunyomi, so this is tsukeru. Tsukeru, this means attach. Again, to attach, maybe, that's an easier way to remember the difference. To fasten, to put one thing on another. Okay, again the difference, something I had mentioned in one of the previous videos, this is an intransitive verb. Intransitive verb, and this is a transitive verb. Okay, intransitive and transitive. Again, look up what the difference could be online if you're interested, or if after finishing this entire kanji marathon if I have time and the interest left, I'll go over it along with grammar lessons. But until then, just bear this in mind, that one is transitive and the other is intransitive. So let's look at another one. Okay, this will be read as tsuketasu. Tsuketasu, which means to add on or append. Again, if you remember this, let me change the pencil color just for a bit. So here, this again, we have just seen it, it means all things like attach, etc. Right? And this means to suffice or to make sufficient. It's the kanji for leg. Okay, to make sufficient. So it means you're going to add something and then make it sufficient. Something like that. Okay, it's kethasu. Okay, let's have a look at one more. Okay, and this is going to be read as minitsukeru. Okay, minitsukeru is to acquire knowledge. To acquire knowledge. Oops, I missed the D. To acquire knowledge or to learn. There are going to be many words that you see later on which mean learn. So one way to remember this is if you can somehow memorize the word internalize. That is to say, whatever you have learned has now become a part of your body or a part of yourself. If you remember it like that, you'll be able to understand that this means you have learned it so well that you will never forget it. That kind of learning is usually what minitsukeru means. Okay. Okay, now let's look at the next kanji, which I think is 65. I think this session is going to be my longest yet, and I apologize for that. Okay, this is how that looks. Okay, let me just rewrite that because it's a little bit, the proportions are a little bit, yeah, I suppose still not okay. I'll do it one last time to see if I can get the proportion right. Okay, it's better than the previous attempts, but still not very good. Anyway, so if you remember, we did this, and this meant crossing your hands over, right? Now just think of this part as how should I put it, as a claw. Think of it as a claw, and you're basically receiving it. The meaning here is receive. Again, I am not sure if I conveyed the mnemonic sufficiently. There is no D in the end, it's just receive or accept. It's like if you can imagine the upper part as being a claw and the lower part as being a hand. So it's like the upper claw is receiving the hand. You can think of it like that. Again, not a very convincing explanation, I imagine, but if it suits, it suits. So again, the on and kunyomis. The first is ukeru, then you have uke, and then you have ukaru. Okay, and the onyomi is ju. Okay, now let's have a look at the words associated with this kanji. Okay, I'll try to write it better than I have so far. Okay, this is jushin, which means receipt of a message. But this is necessarily not a physical message. That is to say, something like, think of it as email. Or if you work in the IT sector as I do, you will use this word when you mean to say that you have received an interface file. Interface file from an upstream system. I imagine that the references to the IT industry are going to increase from this point on. So if it bores you, I'm really sorry. And if it helps you for your work, well, all the better, right? So anyway, this means the receipt of a message, but necessarily an electronic message or a non-physical kind of message. Okay. Now let's have a look at the kunyomi, how we write that. I think it's pretty obvious by now. This is how we are going to write it, and it's ukeru, and this means receive or accept. Okay. Now let's have a look at some interesting concepts, which if you are doing grammar, it will be useful for you. Okay, this is ukemi. So literally it means receiving body. Now what do you imagine that means? It means the person is passive. They're not active, they're not giving, they're passive. So this means passivity or passive voice. So this is with reference to the active voice and passive voice of grammar. Okay, so again let me mention that this is grammar, active voice and passive voice, that ukemi. Okay, let's look at the next word. Okay, this is ukeireru, which means to accept, to consent to receive, or to acknowledge. Okay. Oh, I apologize. It means to accommodate. I apologize. Accommodate. Okay. Ukeireru. Again, you can see the ukeru is the receiving part and ireru is to again receive or to put in. So accept, consent, receive or accommodate. Okay. Now this is a word that you're going to come across fairly often. This is read as uketsuke. Uketsuke, which is simply receipt, or sometimes even the reception desk. You know, the reception desk at an office, for example, or at the doctor's place, doctor's clinic, or at a hospital, anywhere. So those kinds of reception desks. So those are also called uketsuke. Okay, it's a very common word. You will, for those of us who are going to appear for JLPT, not in July, thankfully. I mean, I know it's a deadly pandemic, it's really bad, and a lot of people, even in my own country, have died, and it's really horrible that there are so many people who have lost either their lives or their livelihoods in this coronavirus pandemic. But well, it's selfish of me to say so, but I'm actually happy that the JLPT exams got cancelled, at least for July, and that we'll only have to appear directly in December. You cannot imagine how overjoyed I am, and you should be too if you had a plan to write JLPT. You've gotten more time to study so that you don't fail in December. So make use of this good time. Okay. That was a bit of a lecture, I apologize. In any case, this is the next kanji, number 66. And this kanji has a bit of a tricky mnemonic, so I'm going to skip it altogether because the mnemonic asks you to draw stuff on paper and then try and memorize what it could be. So in any case, this is what that kanji looks like. Okay. So we'll go straight to the meaning. I'm going to skip the mnemonic. The meaning itself is also a little bit tricky, so it's going to be difficult to memorize this. Just try and memorize the words that come with this kanji, so it's easy for you to understand how it is to be used. So this is like that. These are the two meanings. So the first meaning is extremely abstract. It's extremely abstract, but unfortunately that's pretty much as close as you can come to conceptual. Just a minute. I was waiting for it. Anyway, so this is as close as you can get to conceptualizing what this kanji means in and of itself. All right. So for now, let's move on to the on and kunyomi, and we look at how the meaning to the dash off is conveyed through the words. One of the meanings is, or rather the kunyomi is motte, and the onyomi is i. Onyomi is i. Okay. Now let's have a look at some words. So you have this will be read as ika, which means not more than under, or the following. Okay, and this will be read as ijo, and this has a bunch of meanings. So this has not less than. Obviously, because the two kanjis are opposites, the meanings are going to be somewhat opposite. Ijo and ika are going to be somewhat opposite. So you have not less than, you have beyond, the aforementioned or the above mentioned. Let's stick with above mentioned because it's easier to remember with the kanji. And it also means that's all. So if you have seen anime, specifically Naruto, there have been several instances where Tsunade, after she becomes the Hokage, says Ijo when she wants to dismiss the group of people she has called in her office to brief them or to check up on the current situation. So she says Ijo, which means that's it, that's all, or it's over. You can even say that at the end of class, instead of saying class dismissed, you can say ijo, and it means that's it. Okay, that's another meaning. Okay, now let's see one more. So this means, or rather this will be read as Futari ijo. Futari ijo. Okay, which means two people or more. Two people or more, or two or more people, whichever way. Okay, now let's have a look at another meaning. Okay, now this will be read as kore wo motte. Kore wo motte. Now this will be understood as with this, or because of this. Okay, it still doesn't convey exactly how it means to the dash of, but try and remember how this word motte is being used in isolation and how it is used when it comes with other kanjis. Of course, you will probably come across more words with this in future, but for now just remember these. Ijo and Ika are very commonly used in your reading comprehension, because there's at least one reading comprehension example which deals with numbers, and usually there will be some use for this Ijo and Ika. So if you just remember those two also, it will be good enough for now. We can wait to see what other kanji combinations we can have when we do more kanjis. Oops. Okay, this is number 67. Okay, this is that kanji. Okay, let me draw it a bit better because right now it's not very well drawn. Okay, that's a better way of writing it. Okay, so this kanji is actually stand. Again, I would say it's a little difficult to visualize how this means stand, but so I'm going to skip on the mnemonic and just go straight to the meaning. This means stand or establish. Okay, and let's quickly have a look at, the kunyomis. Again, several related kunyomis, so if you remember just two of them, you'll be able to manage the rest. Excuse me, I don't know why. So you have tatsu, excuse me, I'm really sorry about this. Tachi, Oh, good God. I'll see. Oh, good God. Okay, I'll still try and finish this. If it becomes too much of a pain, I will redo this session. I apologize. Seriously. Okay, I think I'll continue because I've already recorded about 40 minutes worth uh, of stuff. So the first onyomi is Ritsu and the other one is Ryu. The important kunyomis that you should probably bear in mind is thoughts. I apologize. Is Tatsu, Tateru. Yeah, I think those two should be enough. Okay, now let's quickly have a look at some words. This will be read as Juritsu, which means standing in the middle. So standing in the middle of what? Of two sides. So it means neutrality. Okay. The kunyomi, of course, let's see how we write that. This is how that is written, and this is read as tatsu. And of course, if it comes with teru instead of tsu, you're going to read it as tateru. Right? Pretty obvious. Now let's have a look at some more words. Okay, this is tachiagaru. Okay, which means to stand up or rise to one's feet. Okay. Okay, now this is going to be tachibanashi, which is pretty straightforward, chatting while standing. Okay. Let's look at the next kanji. This is kanji number 68. Okay. That did not come out well. Okay. Now here again, the mnemonic for this is a little difficult for me to explain, and so basically I'm just going to skip the mnemonic and enter straight into the word. For those of us who have the book, you can try reading it. For those of us who don't, I would suggest that you try and get used to this kanji as it is. It's not very complicated, it's not too difficult at all. It just means a section, a division, or a department. Okay, let me write the whole thing instead of just okay, department. Okay, so when you want to say accounting department, you're going to say keiri bu. That last bu is what this is. So I've also told you what the reading is. There is no kunyomi for this, so again we got lucky, and the onyomi is bu. Okay, so keiri bu, the bu meaning department and keiri being accounting, the words for which we shall surely see as we progress. So let's quickly look at some words for it. That stroke is so difficult to write. Yeah, okay, so this is going to be read as ichibu, which means part, portion, section. Okay, or it also means it is a copy. That is the next line because it's a separate kind of meaning. A copy of printed material. Okay, copy of a printed material. Ichibu. Okay, let's have a look at one more. I think the previous stroke order was correct. Good God, this is difficult. I'm not gonna modify that. This is job or upper section or upper part. Okay, or the top or the surface. Just remember upper part. You'll be able to figure out what it implies based on the context. Okay, now let's have a look at one more. And this will be tob, which means eastern part. Or even just east. Again, this is a bit context sensitive, I would say. Now this is a bit of a tricky meaning. This will be read as buka, and this means subordinate. And that noise just now, in case you heard it, was a coconut falling from the coconut tree in my garden. You see, all the noises happen when you least want them to happen. Murphy's law is, it should be considered a law of nature at this point. Anyway, okay, buka means subordinate, Okay, and let's have a look at a phrase. Okay, this is going to be nani nani no bu ni hairu. By the way, this dot 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 or even this squiggly line can be read as honyarara, honyarara, which can be roughly translated as something something or blah blah, something like that. So honyarara no bu ni hairu. Okay, which means falls under the head of whatever was that blank, this blank here, whatever, or comes under that department, or to be classed under whatever. Okay, that's how that is read. Now let's have a look at the next kanji. I think this is my longest session yet, and I imagine it's only going to get longer from here, so I apologize for turning you off this thing. In any case, this is the next kanji. Again, it's a bit of a okay. The mnemonic this time is a bit manageable, so let's have a look at it. So again, this here part means person, right? And we know that this here part means stand, but let's just think of this as a box rather than a mouth for now. So we can think that there's an extremely short person who's standing on top of a box to make his height appear double than what it is. Okay, double than what it is. So the meaning is times or fold, when you say two-fold, three-fold, that kind of fold, or of course the simple double. Okay, again, luckily we do not have a kunyomi for this. It only has an onyomi, and the onyomi is bai. Bai. Okay, so let's quickly have a look at some words. This will be read as bai ni suru, which means double. Okay, to double. Okay, okay, this is kind of like a phrase. You could consider this as a phrase, and I made a slight mistake. It's just this, and it is read as hito ichibai hanasu. Hito ichibai hanasu. So it means speak twice as much as others. So it's kind of rather one way of saying someone is extremely talkative. Okay, hito ichibai hanasu. Okay, some more simple words. This is of course your simple nibai, which means double again. Okay. This is nibai ijo, which means over twofold. Over twofold, or at least twice as much, or at least double. Okay. So I think this sufficiently illustrates how to use by. We will see more uses, or if necessary, I will see if I can do this along with counters, if I decide to do counters. So this is the last kanji of the day, I think, number 70. Okay. And this kanji, I think I wrote that correctly. No, I did not. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. So this kanji, again, I would say it's a little bit difficult to memorize the mnemonic. And there's quite a bit of talks of uh, how should I say, radicals and graphemes in the book, which I don't know if I should be doing. We'll see. Maybe doing a session for radicals will become useful, because this book seems to have started talking about them a lot more. So okay, I will consider doing that session maybe once I hit the 100 mark. But for now, let's quickly move on to the meaning. Maybe we can look at the mnemonic in the radicals class. So it means become, form, or achieve. That's the meaning of this kanji. Okay. So let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. The kunyomi is really simple. Naru, nasu, or nasu. Okay. And the onyomi is sei and jo. And let's have a look at some words for this. Okay. This is going to be read as okay, it is going to be read as Seiritsusuru, which means come into existence. I think I'm exhausted. Come into existence. To be formed. Okay. Or to be organized. Okay. Oops. Okay. to write kanjis in the stroke orders can be a bit of a pain. Okay, this is the next one, and this is, so it's like to achieve something big, basically. Okay, that is achieve greatness. Achieve greatness. Okay. Seijin, which means an adult or a fully formed person or a grown up. Okay. Oops. Of course, the one of the kunyomis is simply naru, which means to become. Okay, and nasu, which means to form, to make, or to accomplish. Again, this is intransitive. This is transitive. Moving back a few kanjis, again, even here we have that transitive, intransitive thing. So this is intransitive. This is transitive. If you know what transitive and intransitive verbs are, this becomes really easy. So I would definitely encourage looking out into what that means. Okay, we have covered our 70 kanjis. We have covered our quota for today. So thank you for watching and see you next time.